Good morning. This is video 14. We're beginning today in Ruth chapter 3, verse 10. The Lord bless you, my daughter, he replied. This kindness is greater than that which you showed earlier. You have not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I will do for you all you ask. All my fellow townsmen know that you are a woman of noble character. Although it is true that I am a near kin, there is a kinsman redeemer nearer than I. Stay here for the night, and in the morning, if he wants to redeem, good, let him redeem. But if he is not willing, as surely as the Lord lives, I will do it. Lay here until morning. Now, we'll stop right there for a moment. We know that Ruth went to the threshing floor. She uncovered Boaz's feet. This is as instructions from her mother-in-law, Naomi. She has a conversation with Boaz about what's going on. She says to him, cover me with your garment. This is to provide for her, provide for her security. He says, lay here till the morning. I'll do everything that you ask. Now, he does say, I really appreciate the fact that you're coming to me instead of going for the younger men. Boaz is about 80 years old. Ruth is somewhere between 25 and 35, maybe, at the most. And so she is still, of course, now she is still childbearing age. And so Naomi's trying to find her a husband for Ruth that will take care of her during all of this time. Well, he says, the kindness that you've shown me is the kindness that you have also shown to Naomi by taking care of her like you're supposed to. And he says to her, I am a near kin, but I'm not the kinsman redeemer. Now, we've talked about what a kinsman redeemer is. The kinsman redeemer has to do with the acquisition of the land. So Elimelech had land before he went to Moab. The land, we don't know whether he sold it or rented it or just left it. But we do know that according to the laws back in Leviticus, remember the laws back in Leviticus where it talks about the land, a redeemer can go in and redeem that land, take it back and bring it back into the family. And if he doesn't do that, it automatically returns to the family in the 50th year. Now, we've got a problem here because Elimelech had two sons and both have already died. And so now who owns the land? Well, we're going to find out here in just a little bit in chapter 4, but we know that he says, I am a kinsman redeemer, but I am not the nearest one. So we're going to find out who the nearest one is. Verse 14, so she lay at his feet until morning, but got up before anyone could be recognized, and he said, don't let it be known that a woman came to the threshing floor. So I came here. You came here to the threshing floor. Don't let it be known. Don't tell anybody Nobody knows you're here. Don't tell anybody you've been here. He also said, bring me your shawl. Now, the shawl is a big piece of cloth that she wore over her head or over her shoulders to give her warmth. And it's pretty good size piece of cloth. And usually in those days, it was made out of a heavy cloth. It wasn't made out of silkworm or something like silk from China or wherever. And he says, bring me your shawl that you are wearing and hold it out. So when she did and she held it out in front of her, he poured 6 measures of barley in and poured into it 6 measures of barley. Now, in some of the commentators, they said he gave her 6 seeds, indicating that from her union with him, there would be 6 descendants of renown that would come from that union. This was King David. This was the Messiah. This was Daniel the prophet, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. These are the 3 Hebrew children that were thrown into the fiery furnace that walked around in there, and God was with them and led them out. These 6, but that's not what this scripture says. The scripture says that he poured 6 measures. Now, we don't know how big the measures were. The measures could have been like a scoop. It could have been a double handful. It could have been a jar that he had there, and he filled up the jar with the barley and poured it in there. We don't know what the measures were, but we do know that it says that the measures, and when she bound it all up, it says in verse 15 here, when she did so, he poured into it 6 measures of barley and put it on her. So it could not have just been 6 seeds. He put it on her. Now, whether he put it on a platform on her head, whether he put it over her shoulders like a man would carry a sack of feed, we don't know. But it says that he did this, and then he went back to town. So the threshing floor is not at the town. The threshing floor is away from the town somewhere. And he told her, you can't go home empty-handed to your mother. Verse 16, when Ruth came to her mother-in-law, Naomi asked, well, dear, how did things go? Now, I know that this is kind of something we naturally think about, but this is the way things are. When people haven't seen each other in a while, even if it's just a matter of going off to work and coming back, well, how you doing? Anything exciting happen today? Did everything go okay at work? Did everything go okay on your shopping trip? She's asking a question, and she's just wanting to make conversation. Well, how did things go down there like I told you to do? How did it go with Boaz? And so continuing with that verse, then she told her everything Boaz had done for her. So she told her everything that he had said and that he had done for her. That means that he could have spread his garment over her, which means I'm going to take you into protection. About the barley. And verse 17, and she also added in verse 17, he gave me these 6 measures of barley, saying, Don't go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed. So now we have the third incident, or a second incident of the measures of barley. She didn't say, he gave me these 6 seeds that represent the 6 people that's going to come from the union, the great people. She said, he gave me these 6 measures of barley. Now that's quite a bit. That's enough for, let's just say, both of them for 6 to 7, maybe even 8 days. Okay. So we don't know what else happened. It's not told us exactly what else happened. Everything else is conjecture because we do not have an eyewitness to this. Okay. And so, verse 18, then Naomi said, wait, my daughter, until you find out what happens. And when for the man will not rest until the matter is settled today. So he goes to town. She goes home to Naomi. She tells Naomi what all happened. She tells Naomi about the barley. She shows it to her. She said, you just wait, girl. He's going to settle this thing today. We're going to know whether you're going to be married to him or the near kinsman redeemer before this day is over with, because the matter's going to be settled. And notice that she says, my daughter. She doesn't say, my daughter-in-law. That's going to remove her from the responsibility that Naomi feels here. My daughter, I've taught you everything that I know about God. I've taught you, I'm just like one of my children, you're my daughter. And it's a sign of endearment here. And so she's saying, that man will not let this go by, let this day settle at all without you knowing that you're going to be his bride or somebody else's. This matter's coming to a head in a hurry. Well, next time we'll pick up on chapter 4